"You honor us with your wisdom, sir," said the janitor, her voice calm and clear, echoing through the gleaming boardroom. "You said that true partnership requires more than shared profits. It demands shared understanding." The room went silent. Executives in tailored suits stared in disbelief. Chloe Bannister froze mid-click of her phone app, the mistranslation still playing through its robotic voice. Sultan Malik, the Saudi billionaire seated at the head of the table, slowly smiled, his eyes locked on the woman in a maintenance uniform, standing with a mop still in her hands. "And who, may I ask," he said, switching back to Arabic, "is this remarkable woman?" Then, 6 months earlier, Elena Santos adjusted her uniform in the dim light of the employees' locker room at Harrison & Co. Tower. The starched collar of her grey maintenance jumpsuit scratched against her neck as she fastened the last button. A small plastic name tag that read Elena S. was pinned slightly askew over her left breast pocket. With practiced movements, she twisted her long black hair into a tight bun and secured it with a clip. The locker room smelled of industrial cleaner and faded perfume. It was 6 p.m., the beginning of her shift, when most of the corporate employees were streaming out of the gleaming glass skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan. Elena preferred the nighttime hours, the empty offices, the quiet hallways, the solitude. It gave her space to think, to remember who she used to be. "You look tired," Anna said, closing her own locker with a metallic clang. Anna Peretti had been cleaning at Harrison for 15 years, and her kind, weathered face had been Elena's first welcome when she started the job 8 months ago. "Just the usual," Elena replied with a small smile. "Marcus had physical therapy today." "How's he doing?" Anna asked, concern creasing the corners of her eyes. Elena sighed, pulling out her cleaning cart from the supply closet. "Better. The new treatments are helping. With the pain, but he's still—" She trailed off, unwilling to voice the frustration her younger brother carried like a second skin since the accident. "He's lucky to have you," Anna said, patting Elena's shoulder. "But I still say you're too smart to be scrubbing floors, honey." Elena pushed her cart toward the service elevator, Anna following beside her. "It pays the bills, the hours work with Marcus's schedule, and I don't have to bring work home." She didn't mention how far this reality was from the future she'd once imagined for herself, completing her master's in Near Eastern Studies at Columbia, perhaps pursuing a PhD, traveling to Jordan and Egypt for research. Instead, life had veered sharply when Marcus's accident left him with chronic pain and crushing medical bills. The full scholarship Elena had worked so hard for couldn't compete with family need. She withdrew before completing her degree. "I heard the execs are in a panic," Anna said, as they rode the elevator to the 40th floor, where the executive suites gleamed with mahogany and marble. "Some big-shot investor coming in from overseas." "Really?" Elena asked, grateful for the change of subject. "Sultan something. Saudi billionaire. Apparently, if he doesn't invest, half the company might get cut." Anna's voice dropped to a whisper, even though they were alone. "Gregory Sloan himself was yelling at the marketing team today. I was emptying trash bins when he stormed in, demanding everyone learn basic Arabic phrases." The elevator doors opened onto the executive floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of Manhattan at dusk, lights beginning to twinkle in the early evening darkness. The space smelled of expensive cologne and furniture polish. "We better start with the boardroom," Elena said. "If they're preparing for an important meeting, they'll want it spotless." As they pushed their carts down the hallway, raised voices spilled from an open office door. Elena recognized Chloe Bannister's sharp tone immediately. The marketing VP was infamous among the cleaning staff for her demanding perfectionism and complete disregard for anyone she considered beneath her. "I don't care if it's short notice. We need a professional translator by tomorrow morning." Chloe was pacing behind her desk, one hand clutching her phone, the other gesticulating wildly. "The entire Sultan Malik deal depends on this meeting. Do you understand what that means for our Q4 numbers?" Elena slowed her pace, ears perking up at the familiar name. Sultan Malik. Where had she heard that name before? "Fine," Chloe snapped into the phone. "I'll use the translation app as backup, but I need a person here, someone who actually speaks Arabic." She ended the call with a frustrated jab at her screen. Elena pushed her cart past the door, keeping her eyes down. Chloe glanced up, her gaze sliding over Elena with the practiced indifference of someone looking at furniture. "Make sure you get the fingerprints off the glass table this time," Chloe said without a greeting. The last cleaning job was subpar. Yes, Ms. Bannister, Eleanor replied, her voice soft and deferential, the tone expected from someone in her position. In the boardroom, Elena worked methodically, spraying and wiping the massive glass conference table until it gleamed. Her mind, however, was elsewhere. Sultan Malik. The name had triggered something, a memory from her academic life. She closed her eyes, trying to recall. 5 years ago, a conference at Columbia University. She had presented a paper on cultural linguistics in business negotiations with Gulf states. There had been a distinguished panel of business leaders and academics, and among them, yes, a Saudi entrepreneur named Malik, who had complimented her analysis afterward. Could it be the same person? "Elena?" Anna called from the doorway. "I'm heading to the bathrooms. You good in here?" "Yes, almost done," Elena replied, gathering her cleaning supplies, as she worked through the night. Moving from floor to floor, office to office, the name Malik kept resurfacing in her thoughts. By the time she clocked out at 2 a.m., exhaustion had settled deep in her bones, but curiosity sparked in her mind. At home, in the tiny one-bedroom apartment she shared with Marcus in the Bronx, Elena moved quietly so as not to wake her brother. The place was small, but meticulously organized. Bookshelves lined with academic texts she couldn't bear to part with, a desk in the corner of the living room where she still translated Arabic pamphlets for a community center for extra cash. She pulled out a worn leather binder from the bottom of her bookshelf. Inside were papers from her academic life, conference programs, research notes, old business cards. She flipped through them until she found what she was looking for, a program from the Columbia University Business and Cultural Relations Symposium, dated 5 years earlier. There, listed among the distinguished panelists, Sultan Abdul Aziz Malik, CEO of Malik Global Investments. Elena stared at the name, a strange feeling settling in her chest. Tomorrow, the man who had once praised her academic insights would sit in the boardroom she had just cleaned, completely unaware that the woman who once impressed him now emptied his trash bins. She closed the binder and checked the time. 3:15 a.m. Her alarm would go off in 4 hours for her morning shift at the community center. With a sigh, she prepared for bed, setting out her uniform for the following evening. As she drifted off to sleep, Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen, that somehow, after years of invisibility, she was about to be seen again. The Harrison and Cummer's Tower lobby buzzed with unusual energy the following evening when Elena arrived for her shift. Security guards stood straighter, reception staff wore their most professional smiles, and the marble floors had been polished to a mirror shine. "They've been preparing all day," Anna whispered as they rode the service elevator. "The big Saudi investor is coming tomorrow, and Gregory Sloan is about to have a coronary. The translator cancelled last minute." "What will they do?" Elena asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Chloe's going to use some fancy translation app on her phone. She's been practicing Arabic phrases all day. Poorly, I might add." Anna rolled her eyes. "I was cleaning her office when she was rehearsing. Sounded like she was gargling marbles." The elevator doors opened to reveal a flurry of activity on the executive floor. Assistants hurried back and forth carrying presentation materials. IT staff checked connections in the boardroom, and the catering team arranged sample setups for tomorrow's lunch. Meeting. Eleanor and Anna split up, with Anna taking the executive bathrooms and Elena assigned to the offices and boardroom. As she pushed her cart toward the conference room, Eleanor passed Gregory Sloan's office. The CEO's door was ajar, and she could hear his agitated voice. "Chloe, this is unacceptable. Sultan Malik is bringing his entire team tomorrow and we don't have a reliable translator." "I've got it covered, Greg," Chloe's confident voice replied. "The app is state-of-the-art and I've memorized key phrases. Besides, his English is excellent. The Arabic is just a formality." "A formality worth $50 million, Gregory retorted. "This isn't just about language, it's about cultural respect. Malik values authentic connection. If we botch this, Peterson and Wealth is waiting to snap up his investment." Elena slowed her pace, absorbing the conversation. She remembered Sultan Malik's comments at the conference years ago about Western businesses failing to understand the nuances of Arabic business culture, how true partnership required more than translated words, but translated intentions. She moved on to the boardroom, focusing on her work. The massive glass table needed to be immaculate. The leather chairs required conditioning. Every surface demanded perfection. As she cleaned, She found herself glancing at the presentation materials left on a side table. Slides about Harrison & Co.'s expansion plans in the Middle East, financial projections, partnership opportunities. One particular slide caught her eye: Cultural Bridge Initiative. The content described a program, supposedly designed to foster cross-cultural business education, but Eleanor immediately spotted several inaccuracies in the Arabic text. The translation was literal rather than cultural, missing the nuanced approach that would resonate with someone like Malik. "What are you doing?" Elena startled, nearly dropping her cleaning cloth. Chloe Bannister stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her sleek designer suit as impeccable as her disapproving expression. "I'm sorry, Ms. Bannister. I was just cleaning around the materials," Eleanor said, stepping back from the table. Chloe's eyes narrowed as she approached. "These are confidential documents. You shouldn't be reading them." "I wasn't," Eleanor began, but Chloe cut her off with a dismissive wave. "Just finish cleaning and go, and don't touch anything on that table." She gathered the presentation materials and left without another glance. Eleanor continued her work, a familiar weight settling in her chest. It was the same dismissal she'd experienced countless times since taking this job, the assumption that because she cleaned floors, she couldn't possibly understand or contribute to the work happening around her. Later that night, in the break room, Elena scrolled through news articles about Sultan Malik on her phone. His business empire had expanded significantly since she'd heard him speak years ago. He'd become known for investing in companies that demonstrated not just financial promise, but cultural intelligence in their global approach. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Pain's bad tonight. You have any extra Advil?" Elena sighed, typing back, "In the medicine cabinet, top shelf. I'll bring more tomorrow. Need me to come home early?" "No, I'm good. Don't want you to lose hours." "Thanks, sis." She pocketed her phone, her mind divided between concern for her brother and thoughts of tomorrow's meeting. On impulse, she opened her translation app and recorded herself, speaking the Arabic phrase she remembered from Malik's speech years ago, a proverb about wisdom being found in unexpected places. "What's that?" Anna asked, entering the break room with her lunch bag. "Just practicing my Arabic," Eleanor replied with a small smile. "Old habits. I didn't know you spoke Arabic. Where'd you learn that?" Elena hesitated, then decided on the simple truth. "College. I studied Near Eastern languages and culture. Before I had to leave." Anna's eyebrows rose. "So you could translate tomorrow for the big meeting?" "Theoretically, yes," Elena said, shutting off her phone. "But they don't know that, and they wouldn't ask the janitor anyway." Anna snorted. "True enough, this place is so wrapped up in titles and degrees they wouldn't recognize talent if it was mopping their floors." She unwrapped her sandwich. "Still, might be interesting to see how their meeting goes. I heard we're supposed to stay clear of the 40th floor until after lunch." "We'll see," Elena said non-committally, though a plan was already forming in her mind. That night, after her shift ended, Eleanor didn't go straight home. Instead, she sat in a 24-hour diner near her apartment, nursing a cup of coffee while reviewing Arabic business terminology on her tablet. It had been years since she'd used her language skills professionally, but the vocabulary returned quickly, muscle memory of the mind. She practiced quietly, mouthing phrases about investment strategies, cultural integration, market expansion, terms she once studied for a future she thought lost to her. When she finally returned to her apartment, the sun was beginning to rise. Marcus was asleep on the pull-out couch, his face peaceful for once, free from the pain that usually creased his brow. Eleanor watched him for a moment, remembering his bright enthusiasm before the accident, how he'd been so proud of his genius big sister at Columbia. She showered quickly and changed into fresh clothes, not bothering to sleep. In a few hours, Sultan Malik would arrive at Harrison & Co. and Elena would be there, invisible as always, but listening, waiting. For what? She wasn't entirely sure. All she knew was that tomorrow, something would change. She could feel it with the same certainty she'd felt years ago when she stood at a podium at Columbia, speaking about cultural bridges and the power of understanding across languages. Tomorrow, someone might finally hear her. The morning of Sultan Malik's visit dawned with unseasonable warmth for October in New York. Elena had barely slept, yet she felt strangely alert as she entered Harrison Tower through the employee entrance. The security guard, who usually didn't look up from his crossword puzzle, was standing straight, his uniform freshly pressed. "Big day," he commented as Elena signed in. "VIPs. Coming." Elena nodded, slipping her ID badge into her pocket. "So I've heard." The employee locker room was abuzz with chatter. Maintenance staff had been called in early to ensure every inch of the building gleamed. Catering personnel in crisp white uniforms hurried in and out, coordinating last-minute details for the luncheon. "There you are," Anna said, catching Elena's arm as she finished, changing into her uniform. "Chloe Bannister's on the warpath. She wants us to do one more sweep of the 40th floor before the meeting." Elena checked her watch. 7:30 a.m. "The meeting's not until 10, right?" "Yeah, but apparently Sultan Malik is sending his advance team at 8:30. They want to check security and set up their own tech." Anna lowered her voice. "I overheard Chloe telling someone that's standard for billionaires. They sweep for bugs or something." They took the service elevator to the 40th floor, emerging into a hive of nervous energy. Administrative assistants rushed back and forth with folders and tablets. IT technicians huddled around the conference room's presentation system, and in the center of it all stood Chloe Bannister, impeccably dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, barking orders into her Bluetooth headset. "No, I told you, the pronunciation has to be perfect. I don't care if it's just a greeting. Run it through the app again and send me the audio." She caught sight of Elena and Anna. "Finally. The glasses in the boardroom need another polish. There are fingerprints everywhere." Elena nodded deferentially and wheeled her cart toward the boardroom. Through the glass walls, she could see Gregory Sloane rehearsing his presentation, his mouth moving silently as he practiced what appeared to be Arabic phrases. Inside the boardroom, Eleanor methodically polished each water glass, ensuring no smudges remained. The table settings were elegant: fine bone china, sterling silver cutlery, crystal water glasses. Subtle touches nodded to Middle Eastern aesthetics. The floral arrangements incorporated hints of saffron. The printed menus featured traditional Saudi dishes alongside American fare. As she worked, Elena listened to the conversations around her. The translation app crashed twice during testing last night. An IT specialist muttered to his colleague near the presentation screen. "We've got the backup installed on 3 different devices, but it's still glitchy with specialized business terms." "Just make sure the mics pick up clearly," his colleague replied. "The app needs perfect audio to translate accurately." Elena moved on to wiping down the leather chairs. From her position, she could see the presentation slides being projected onto a side screen for testing. Several slides featured Arabic text, and Elena noticed multiple errors in the translation. Not just grammatical mistakes, but cultural missteps that could potentially offend. She hesitated, weighing her options. She could say nothing, remain invisible as expected, or she could speak up and risk drawing attention to herself, attention that could be unwelcome, embarrassing, or worse. Before she could decide, Chloe burst into the room, her face flushed with urgency. "They're here early. Malik's advance team just pulled up. Clear out now." She snapped her fingers at Elena. "Finish quickly and take the service corridors. We don't want maintenance staff visible when they arrive." Elena gathered her cleaning supplies, her opportunity to mention the translation errors vanishing. As she pushed her cart toward the service hallway, she passed the elevator bank just as the doors opened. 3 men in dark suits stepped out, their expressions serious as they surveyed the floor. One man, slightly older than the others, wore traditional Saudi business attire, a crisp white thobe with a red and white checkered gutra. His eyes met Elena's for the briefest moment before sliding past her unseeing, the way most executives looked through rather than at maintenance staff. Elena slipped into the service corridor, her heart racing unexpectedly. She recognized that man from the conference years ago, Fahad al-Nasri, Sultan Malik's chief of security and business advisor. She wondered if he would remember her if he actually saw her, not the invisible janitor, but the confident graduate student who had once engaged him in a spirited debate about dialectical variations in business Arabic. For the next hour, Eleanor and Anna were restricted to the lower floors. The entire 40th floor was declared off-limits until after the meeting concluded, but Elena couldn't focus on her regular cleaning duties. Her mind kept returning to the translation errors in the presentation, the nervousness of the executives, the obvious importance of this meeting to Harrison & Co.'s future. At 9:45 a.m., Elena made a decision. Taking her cleaning cart, she rode the service elevator to the 39th floor and then took the emergency stairs up to the 40th. If questioned, she would claim she was responding to an urgent cleanup request. The executive floor was now transformed. Security personnel, both Harrison's team and Malik's, stood at strategic positions. The scent of expensive cologne mingled with the aroma of fresh coffee and pastries laid out in the reception area. Through the glass walls of the conference room, Eleanor could see Gregory Sloane greeting a small group of men in business attire, Chloe at his side, her smile wide but her posture rigid with tension. And then she saw him, Sultan Malik himself, entering the conference room with the easy confidence of someone accustomed to commanding attention. He was taller than Elena remembered, his salt and pepper beard neatly trimmed, his dark suit impeccably tailored. Unlike the austere businessmen surrounding him, Malik's face was animated as he spoke, his hands gesturing expressively. Elena positioned her cart near the restrooms, giving herself a plausible reason to be on the floor. From this vantage point, she could see into the conference room without being obvious. She pretended to organize her cleaning supplies while observing the interaction. The meeting began with formal introductions. Eleanor could see Chloe surreptitiously checking her phone, where the translation app was clearly running. When Gregory began his welcome speech, he attempted a few phrases in Arabic, his pronunciation stiff and unnatural. Sultan Malik smiled politely, but Elena noticed his advisor, Fahad, suppressing a wince. As the presentation progressed, Elena could tell the moment things began to unravel. Gregory mispronounced a key term, transforming what should have been mutual prosperity into something closer to shared livestock. Sultan Malik's eyebrows rose slightly, but he maintained his diplomatic smile. Then Chloe took over, advancing to slides with the mistranslated Arabic text. She read from her notes, occasionally glancing at her phone app for guidance. With each word, Elena could see the Saudi delegates exchanging increasingly confused glances. Finally, Sultan Malik leaned forward and spoke, not in English but in rapid, eloquent Arabic. His voice was deep and melodious, his dialect formal, but with regional inflections that the translation app would surely miss. He was sharing a traditional proverb about partnership and understanding, using cultural references that would be lost in literal translation. The room fell silent. Gregory and Chloe exchanged panicked glances. Chloe fumbled with her phone, the app processing for several seconds before producing a garbled, nonsensical translation that she read aloud with faltering confidence. The app says, the camel who drinks twice is wiser than the falcon who flies once. Is that right? Sultan Malik's expression remained polite, but Elena could see the light in his eyes dimming. The connection was being lost. Millions of dollars and dozens of jobs hung in the balance because of a cultural and linguistic gap that no one in the room could bridge. Before she could reconsider, Elena found herself moving. She abandoned her cleaning cart and walked purposefully toward the conference room, her heart pounding in her ears. Years of academic training and personal passion overrode years of learned invisibility. She opened the glass door and stepped inside. Every head turned. Gregory Sloane's mouth fell open. Chloe Bannister's eyes widened in outrage, and Sultan Malik, he simply watched, curious. "Excuse me," Elena said, her voice steadier than she felt. Then, switching to Arabic, she addressed Sultan Malik directly, her pronunciation perfect, her dialect matching his own. "You honor us with your wisdom, sir," she said, her voice calm and clear, echoing through the gleaming boardroom. "You said that true partnership requires more than shared profits. It demands shared understanding." The silence that followed was absolute. Gregory Sloane stood frozen, his presentation remote clutched in a white-knuckled grip. Chloe Bannister's phone slipped from her fingers, clattering onto the polished table. The translation app continued to speak through its tinny speaker, mangling Sultan Malik's proverb into nonsense that no one was listening to anymore. Sultan Malik leaned forward, his eyes fixed on Eleanor with unexpected intensity. When he spoke again in Arabic, his words were meant for her alone. "And who, may I ask," he said, "is this remarkable woman?" Eleanor felt the weight of every gaze in the room. She was acutely aware of her grey maintenance uniform, the cleaning supplies still clutched in one hand, the social chasm between herself and everyone seated at the table. For a brief, terrifying moment, she considered retreating, apologizing for the interruption, disappearing back into invisibility. Instead, she straightened her shoulders. "My name is Elena Santos," she replied in Arabic. "I work in building maintenance." Then, switching to English for the benefit of the Harrison executives, she added, I apologize for interrupting, but I believe there has been a misunderstanding in the translation. Gregory recovered first, his business instincts overriding his shock. Ms. Santos, he said, his tone carefully modulated, perhaps you could join us for a moment? It wasn't a question. Chloe's expression had transformed from shock to thinly veiled hostility, but she pulled out an empty chair, one, clearly intended for an assistant, positioned slightly behind the main table. No, Sultan Malik said suddenly in perfect English. If Ms. Santos is to join us, she will sit at the table. He gestured to the empty seat beside him, a place of honor that had been reserved for Harrison's chief financial officer, who had yet to arrive. Eleanor placed her cleaning supplies on a side table and took the offered seat, hyper-aware of the contrast between her uniform and the bespoke suits surrounding her. Fahad al-Nasri studied her with narrowed eyes, recognition flickering across his features. You look familiar, he said in Arabic. Have we met before? Columbia University 5 years ago, Elena replied. I presented a paper on dialectical variations in business Arabic at the Cultural Relations Symposium. Sultan Malik's eyes widened slightly. The young scholar who challenged my assertion about Khaliji business terminology, he said, recognition dawning. You argued quite persuasively that regional dialects were evolving faster than academic Arabic could document. You remember, Elena said, unable to keep the surprise from her voice. I make it a point to remember intelligent perspectives, especially when they correct my own. Malik smiled, then turned to Gregory and Chloe. Your company is full of surprises, Mr. Sloan. You didn't mention you had an Arabic scholar on staff. Gregory cleared his throat. Ms. Santos's linguistic abilities were not in her employee file. His gaze shifted to Elena, a mixture of confusion and calculation. A significant oversight. Clearly, Chloe's smile was brittle. Indeed, what an unexpected resource we've discovered. Her tone suggested Eleanor was less a resource and more a problem to be managed. For the next hour, Eleanor found herself translating the entire presentation. She did more than convert words from one language to another. She bridged cultural contexts, explaining idioms, adjusting metaphors, and providing nuance that the app could never capture. When Sultan Malik asked technical questions about Harrison's proposed expansion into Riyadh, Elena not only translated his concerns, but contextualized them within Saudi business culture. The energy in the room transformed. What had been a stilted, awkward meeting became a dynamic exchange. Sultan Malik engaged more fully, asking deeper questions, offering insights into the Saudi market that weren't in Harrison's research. His team, initially reserved, began contributing to the discussion, building on ideas in real time. As the meeting progressed, Eleanor noticed Chloe typing furiously on her tablet. Occasionally, she would glance up at Elena with an expression that cycled between suspicion and calculation. Gregory, meanwhile, had shifted into full charm. Offensive, acting as though Elena's presence had been part of the plan all along. We believe in recognizing talent at all levels of our organization, he said smoothly when Sultan Malik commented on Elena's unexpected role. Harrison & Cumber values substance over appearances. The irony wasn't lost on Elena, who had been invisible to Gregory Sloan for 8 months, but she kept her expression neutral, focusing on the task at hand. The meeting concluded with Sultan Malik expressing genuine interest in the partnership. I look forward to our dinner tonight, he said to Gregory as they all rose from the table. Perhaps Ms. Santos will join us. I would value her perspective on your cultural integration strategies. Before Gregory could respond, Chloe stepped forward. I'm afraid Eleanor has other responsibilities this evening, but we'll certainly have appropriate translation support at dinner. A pity, Malik said, his gaze returning to Eleanor. Your contribution today was invaluable, Ms. Santos. Thank you, sir, Eleanor replied, suddenly uncertain of her footing in this unexpected new territory. As the Saudi delegation left for their hotel, escorted by Harrison's executive team, Elena remained in the boardroom, gathering her cleaning supplies. Her mind raced with the implications of what had just happened. In the span of an hour, she had stepped out of shadows that had defined her for years. But to what end? She was replacing paper towels in the executive washroom when Chloe Bannister cornered her. That was quite a performance, Chloe said, arms crossed over her chest. Where exactly did you learn to speak Arabic like that? Columbia University, Elena replied evenly. I studied Near Eastern languages and culture, with a specialty in business terminology. Chloe's skepticism was evident. Convenient. I focused on cultural linguistics in business contexts, yes. Elena continued her work, avoiding Chloe's gaze. And you just happened to be cleaning on this floor during our most important meeting of the year. Chloe's voice hardened. Were you eavesdropping? Is that how you knew about the meeting? Elena finally looked up. The entire maintenance staff knew about the meeting, Ms. Bannister. It's been the focus of preparations for days. Well, whatever your motivations, I suppose I should thank you for stepping in. The words seemed to physically pain Chloe. Though in the future, proper channels would be appreciated. Interrupting high-level meetings isn't typically in a janitor's job description. I'm a maintenance technician, Elena corrected gently, and I only intervened because the translation errors were significant enough to jeopardize the meeting's success. Something flashed in Chloe's eyes, a mixture of embarrassment and resentment. Yes, well, Gregory wants to see you in his office before you leave today. Apparently, your unexpected talents may be of use. She turned to leave, then added over her shoulder, You might want to change first. The executive floor has certain standards. After Chloe left, Elena leaned against the sink, exhaling slowly. The adrenaline that had carried her through the meeting was fading, leaving her with a jumble of emotions: pride, anxiety, hope, uncertainty. She checked her phone and found 3 missed calls from Marcus, followed by a text. Where are you? Everything okay? She quickly replied, Everything's fine. Something came up at work. Tell you about it tonight. By the time Elena finished her regular cleaning duties, it was mid-afternoon. She changed into the spare clothes. She kept in her locker, simple black slacks and a navy blouse. Professional enough for most contexts, but worlds away from the designer suits worn by Harrison executives. Gregory Sloane's office occupied the prime corner of the 40th floor, with panoramic views of the Manhattan skyline. His assistant, a young man whose name Eleanor had never learned despite emptying his trash bin for months, eyed her with newfound curiosity as she approached. Miss Santos, he said, her name sounding strange on his lips. Mr. Sloane is expecting you. Gregory was standing at the window when Elena entered, his silhouette framed against the afternoon sun. He turned, his entrepreneur's smile firmly in place. Eleanor, please have a seat. He gestured to the leather chairs facing his desk, as if they were old colleagues. I've been looking at your file. Fascinating background. Columbia University, near-perfect GPA, fluent in 4 languages. Eleanor sat, her posture straight, but her hands clasped tightly in her lap. 3 languages, actually. My French is conversational at best. Still impressive. Gregory leaned against his desk, studying her with new eyes. What I can't figure out is how someone with your qualifications ended up on our maintenance staff. The question, though expected, stung. Eleanor maintained her composure. Life takes unexpected turns, Mr. Sloane. My brother had an accident. I needed stable work with healthcare benefits and evening hours that allowed me to help with his recovery during the day. Admirable family dedication, Gregory nodded, though his tone suggested he found the choice puzzling. But clearly your talents are being wasted. Sultan Malik was extremely impressed with you today. He specifically mentioned your name 3 times after the meeting. I'm glad I could help, Elena said simply. Help? Elena, you may have saved the entire deal. Gregory's smile widened. Which is why I'd like to discuss a new opportunity with you. A new opportunity, Elena repeated, the words hanging between them in Gregory's sunlit office. Yes. Gregory returned to his seat behind the desk, leaning forward with the practiced intensity he reserved for important negotiations. Harrison & Coutures is creating a position for you, Cultural Liaison Officer. You'll work directly with the marketing department to ensure our global communications are culturally appropriate, particularly for our Middle Eastern initiatives. Elena's mind raced, a real position utilizing her education and skills. After years of compromise and invisibility, the possibility felt almost unreal. And the salary? She asked, surprising herself with her directness. Gregory named a figure that made Elena's breath catch. Triple her current maintenance salary, plus benefits. It would mean no more night shifts, no more living paycheck to paycheck, no more choosing between Marcus's medications and paying the electric bill. This is generous, she said carefully. It's appropriate for someone with your skills, Gregory replied, and there would be certain expectations, of course. starting with tonight's dinner with Sultan Malik. Elena hesitated. Ms. Bannister mentioned I wasn't invited. Gregory waved his hand dismissively. Chloe was operating with incomplete information. The dinner is at 7 at Le Bernardin. We'll send a car for you. He glanced at his watch, which gives you about 3 hours to prepare. Do you have appropriate attire? The question, innocuous from Gregory's perspective, highlighted the vast chasm between their worlds. Elena's appropriate attire consisted of the simple black dress she wore to her cousin's wedding 2 years ago. I'll manage, she said simply. Excellent. One more thing. Gregory's tone shifted subtly, his entrepreneur's smile never wavering. Let's agree to a simple narrative about your role at Harrison. Rather than mentioning your maintenance position, we'll say you've been working in an administrative capacity while being groomed for the cultural liaison role. Cleaner optics all around, wouldn't you say? The requirement, struck Elena like a physical blow. They wanted to erase her reality, rewrite her story to make it more palatable for business dinners. She would become a sanitized version of herself, her struggle and sacrifice hidden like a shameful secret. But Marcus's face flashed in her mind, his pain, his needs, the opportunities this salary could provide him. I understand, she said, her voice steady despite the conflict churning inside her. Perfect. Chloe will brief you on the details of the Sultan Malik deal before dinner. We need you thoroughly prepared. Gregory stood, signaling the end of the meeting. Welcome to the executive team, Elena. 3 hours later, Elena stood in her tiny Bronx apartment, studying her reflection in the bathroom mirror. She had done what she could with the black dress, adding a colorful silk scarf she'd bought in Jordan years ago as a graduate student. Her makeup was minimal but polished, her hair swept into an elegant updo that had taken several YouTube tutorials to master. You look different, Marcus said from the doorway, leaning on his cane. At 25, her brother's face still held traces of the carefree boy he'd been before the accident, though pain had etched premature lines around his eyes. Good different or bad different? Elena asked, adjusting the scarf. Just different. He studied her with the perceptiveness that had always been his gift. Important dinner, huh? Very important. She turned to face him. Marcus, something happened today, something big. She explained the events of the morning, her intervention in the meeting, Sultan Malik's recognition, Gregory's job offer. As she spoke, Marcus's expression transformed from surprise to pride to something more complex. So you're becoming an executive, he said when she finished. After all this time hiding your light, they finally saw you. It's not that simple, Elena sighed. They want to pretend I was never a cleaner. Like that part of me is something to be ashamed of. Marcus's jaw tightened. That's messed up. It's business, Elena said, though the words felt hollow. And the salary, Marcus. It would change everything for us. Your treatments, maybe going back to school. At what cost, though? Marcus asked quietly. Your dignity? The truth of who you are and what you've done to keep us afloat. A car horn sounded outside. The driver, Gregory, had promised. Eleanor gathered her small clutch purse, her mind still conflicted. I don't know what I'm doing, she admitted. I'm making this up as I go. Marcus squeezed her shoulder. Just don't let them remake you, Lena. You're perfect as you are. Cleaning lady and Arabic scholar. Both. The restaurant was everything Eleanor expected. Opulent, hushed, exclusive. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over white-clothed tables. Waiters moved with balletic precision. The maitre d' led her to a private dining room where Gregory, Chloe, and several other Harrison executives were already seated with Sultan Malik and his team. All conversation stopped when Elena entered. She was acutely aware of every eye assessing her, her simple dress, her scarf, her obvious outsider status despite the invitation. Sultan Malik rose first, his smile genuine. Ms. Santos, he said in Arabic, you honor us with your presence. The honor is mine, she replied in kind, relieved that her voice remained steady. Gregory gestured to an empty seat between Chloe and Fahad al-Nasri. Elena will be joining our executive team as cultural liaison officer, he announced smoothly. She's been working with us in an administrative capacity while we develop this position. Chloe's smile was brittle as she shifted to make room. Eleanor and I will be working closely together on the Riyadh project, she said, her tone suggesting this was news to her as well. The dinner progressed with the careful choreography of high-level business entertainment. Courses appeared and disappeared. Wine flowed for the Western guests, sparkling water for the Saudi delegation. Conversation moved between pleasantries and business, with Elena translating cultural nuances as needed. Halfway through the main course, Sultan Malik addressed her directly. "Tell me, Ms. Santos, what drew you to Arabic studies? It's uncommon for Westerners to achieve your level of fluency, particularly in business contexts." The table quieted, attention focusing on Elena. She was aware of Gregory and Chloe watching her closely, likely concerned about what she might reveal about her background. "My father was in international construction," she said, sticking to truths while navigating around others. "I grew up fascinated by the different cultures he encountered. In college, I was drawn to the linguistic complexity of Arabic and the rich cultural traditions it expressed." "And now you'll help Harrison and Co. navigate those complexities," Malik said with approval. "A wise investment on their part." "Indeed," Gregory agreed quickly. "Elena's insights will be invaluable as we expand our presence in the region. Though, one wonders why such talents weren't utilized sooner," Fahad commented, his gaze moving between Elena and Gregory with subtle challenge. Before Gregory could respond, Chloe interjected smoothly. The right opportunity hadn't presented itself until now. "We believe in putting people in positions where they can truly shine." The irony of her words wasn't lost on Elena, who had been invisible to Chloe until that morning, but she maintained her composure, playing the role now expected of her. As dessert was served, the conversation turned to the details of the potential investment. Sultan Malik outlined his vision for a partnership that would extend beyond financial returns to create meaningful cultural exchange. His passion was evident, his business acumen sharp, yet tempered with genuine human concern. "The mistake many Western companies make," he said, "is believing that translation alone bridges cultural gaps. True understanding requires more than converting words. It demands converting perspectives." Elena found herself nodding in agreement before remembering her place as translator rather than participant. But Malik noticed her reaction. "You have thoughts on this, Mrs. Santos?" he asked. Put on the spot, Elena hesitated, aware of the executives watching her. But something in Malik's genuine interest gave her courage. "I believe successful cross-cultural business requires humility," she said, "the willingness to recognize that our own perspectives are limited, that wisdom can come from unexpected sources." Malik smiled. "Precisely. Well said." As coffee was served, Malik surprised the table by addressing Elena once more. "I have a proposition for you, Ms. Santos. My foundation runs a global cultural leadership program, providing grants and mentorship to promising individuals who can bridge cultural divides in business, education, and diplomacy. I believe you would be an excellent candidate." Elena blinked in surprise. "That's very generous, but I've just accepted a position with Harrison." "The program is compatible with professional commitments," Malik explained. "It would involve quarterly seminars, some travel to Saudi Arabia and other countries, and a significant research component. All expenses paid, plus a grant for your studies." The opportunity was breathtaking, exactly the kind of program Elena had dreamed of before life intervened. She glanced at Gregory, whose expression had grown carefully neutral. "It's an interesting offer," he said with practiced diplomacy, though naturally, Harrison would need to ensure it doesn't conflict with Elena's new responsibilities. "Of course," Malik agreed. "Think about it, Ms. Santos, no rush to decide tonight." As the dinner concluded, Elena found herself both exhilarated and exhausted. In a single day, her life had transformed. Opportunities she had long abandoned now lay before her, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking a tightrope between worlds that might prove impossible to reconcile. The following week passed in a blur of transitions. Elena moved from night shifts with a mop to days with a desk, from the invisibility of maintenance work to the scrutiny of the executive floor. Her new office, small but with an actual window, was positioned strategically between marketing and international relations. Her new wardrobe, hastily assembled with her first advance payment, still felt like costume pieces for a role she was learning to play. Chloe Bannister wasted no time establishing boundaries. In their first official meeting, her smile never reached her eyes. "Your position reports directly to me," she explained, sliding a folder across her desk. "These are the parameters of the Malik project. You'll focus exclusively on cultural and linguistic elements of our Saudi expansion. All communications go through my office first." Elena reviewed the document, noting the narrowly defined scope. What about Sultan Malik's foundation offer? Gregory is still evaluating whether that arrangement serves Harrison's interests. Chloe's tone made it clear where she stood on the matter. In the meantime, we need you to review these marketing materials by tomorrow morning. Eleanor accepted the substantial stack of documents recognizing the power play. I'll have them done. She worked late into the evening, meticulously correcting translations and flagging cultural missteps in Harrison's Saudi marketing campaign. When she finally arrived home, Marcus was already asleep, his dinner dishes in the sink. A note on the refrigerator read, "Physical therapy went well today. Doc says I'm making progress. Don't work too hard, exec." Eleanor smiled at his nickname for her new status. Though it still felt like an ill-fitting label, she was exhausted, but forced herself to stay awake another hour to review Sultan Malik's foundation materials, which had arrived by courier that afternoon. The program was even more impressive than he'd described, a genuine commitment to fostering cross-cultural leadership, with an impressive roster of past participants now in influential positions worldwide. The next morning, Elena delivered her completed work to Chloe's office, only to find the marketing VP already in a meeting with Gregory and James Peterson, Harrison's chief financial officer. The door was ajar, and Elena caught fragments of their conversation. "Not convinced Malik's offer is genuine," Peterson was saying. "The investment terms are solid, but this cultural program angle feels like a distraction." "It buys him influence," Gregory replied, "and leverage over our new cultural expert." "Speaking of whom," Chloe interjected, "I'm concerned about divided loyalties. If she's participating in Malik's program while representing our interests—" Eleanor knocked firmly on the doorframe, interrupting their speculation. Three heads turned in unison, expressions shifting from surprise to professional neutrality. "The marketing materials you requested," she said, handing the folder to Chloe. "I've highlighted areas of concern and provided alternative phrasing that maintains your messaging while respecting cultural sensitivities." "Thank you, Elena," Gregory recovered smoothly. "We were just discussing the Malik Foundation offer. Have you given it more thought?" "I have," Elena replied carefully. "It's an exceptional opportunity, professionally and academically." "Indeed." Gregory's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Though timing is unfortunate with your new role here. Perhaps after the Saudi expansion is further along." The implication was clear. The foundation opportunity was being shelved indefinitely. Eleanor felt a familiar disappointment settling in her chest, the same feeling she'd experienced when withdrawing from her graduate program years ago. Another door closing. "I understand," she said, maintaining her professional demeanor. "If there's nothing else, I'll return to the translation work." As she turned to leave, James Peterson spoke up. "Actually, Mrs. Santos, we could use your input. Malik's team sent over revised investment terms this morning. Some of the phrasing seems unusual." For the next hour, Elena found herself in the unexpected position of explaining nuances of Saudi business culture to Harrison's executive team. The unusual phrasing reflected Malik's emphasis on relationship building over immediate profit metrics, a perspective alien to Harrison's quarterly-focused approach. "He's looking for genuine partnership," Elena explained. "The profit margins he's willing to accept initially are lower because he values sustainability and mutual growth over quick returns." Peterson frowned. "That's admirable but vague. We need concrete benchmarks." "In his culture, trust is a concrete benchmark," Elena replied. "He's testing whether Harrison values relationship as much as revenue." Gregory exchanged glances with Chloe. "And what would you recommend?" Eleanor considered carefully. "Respond with equal emphasis on relationship. Don't push for higher immediate returns. Instead, propose joint community initiatives in Riyadh that demonstrate commitment beyond profit." Her suggestion was met with skepticism, but eventually adopted. When the meeting ended, Gregory asked Elena to stay behind. "You're proving valuable already," he said once they were alone. "But remember, where your loyalty lies, Harrison is giving you an extraordinary opportunity here." "I'm aware of that," Elena replied evenly. "And I'm grateful." "Good, because while Sultan Malik may offer enticing prospects, we're the ones who recognized your potential. Don't forget that." The thinly veiled warning stayed with Elena throughout the day. As she worked through cultural briefing documents for the executive team, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Ms. Santos, this is Fahad Al-Nasri. Sultan Malik wishes to speak with you regarding the foundation opportunity." Are you available for coffee tomorrow? Please reply at your convenience. Elena stared at the message, conflicted. Accepting would clearly displease Gregory and Chloe, potentially jeopardizing her new position. Declining would mean turning down a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity from one of the world's most influential business leaders. Before she could decide, another text arrived from Marcus. Just got call from Dr. Patel. New treatment approved by insurance. Your fancy job's benefits are already working miracles. You're my hero, sis. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. Her brother's health had been the reason for every sacrifice, every compromise. The Harrison position made his treatment possible. Could she risk that for her own ambitions? She was still contemplating her response when Chloe appeared at her office door. We have a situation, Chloe said without preamble. Malik's team just requested you personally attend tomorrow's video conference instead of our regular translator. Elena looked up, surprised. Did they say why? Apparently there was some confusion in today's call. Their team felt our translator missed important cultural context. Chloe's tone made it clear she considered this a fabricated concern. Gregory wants you there. 9 a.m. sharp. Full briefing in an hour. As Chloe turned to leave, Eleanor made a split-second decision. Ms. Bannister, I should mention, Fahad Al-Nasri contacted me directly about meeting for coffee to discuss the foundation program. Chloe froze, then turned back slowly. Did he now? And what did you tell him? Nothing yet. I wanted to be transparent about the contact. Something calculated flickered in Chloe's eyes. Very professional of you. I suggest you accept the meeting. This was not the response Elena had expected. You do? Absolutely. It gives us valuable insight into Malik's thinking. Chloe leaned against the doorframe. Just remember to share anything relevant you learn. We're a team now, after all. The words team sounded hollow coming from Chloe, whose entire demeanor suggested she viewed Elena as either a tool to be used or a threat to be managed, but Elena nodded her agreement. After Chloe left, Elena replied to Fahad's text, accepting the coffee meeting. Then she sat back, staring out her small office window at the Manhattan skyline. In just over a week, she had risen from invisible cleaner to cultural bridge between corporate worlds. The view from this height was both exhilarating and precarious. She thought of Marcus's text, the treatment approval, his gratitude, his pride in her. Whatever complications she now faced, that alone made it worthwhile. Her desk phone rang, startling her from her thoughts. The voice on the other end was familiar. Anna from the maintenance staff. Elena, is it true? You're working upstairs now? It's true, Elena confirmed, realizing with a pang that she hadn't spoken to Anna since the day everything changed. Well, good for you, Anna said, though her tone held a question. We miss you down here. It's not the same without your stories. I miss you too, Elena said, surprised by how much she meant it. How about lunch tomorrow? My treat. As she hung up, Elena felt a strange nostalgia for the simplicity of her former position. Despite the physical demands and low pay, there had been a certain freedom in invisibility, now visible and valued for. Her mind, rather than her labor, she found herself navigating a complex web of expectations, loyalties, and opportunities. Each choice potentially life-changing, each path obscured by corporate politics she was only beginning to understand. The coffee shop Fahad had chosen was an elegant Middle Eastern cafe tucked between towering office buildings in Midtown. Unlike the sterile chain stores that dominated the area, this place offered authenticity, ornate lanterns hanging from the ceiling, traditional mosaic tables, and the rich aroma of cardamom-infused coffee filling the air. Elena arrived 10 minutes early, dressed in one of her new work outfits, a navy pantsuit that still felt stiff and unfamiliar against her skin. She selected a corner table with a view of both the entrance and the busy street outside, a habit from her academic days when she would study for hours in cafes, positioning herself to observe the flow of humanity around her. Fahad arrived precisely on time, his tailored suit and confident bearing drawing glances from other patrons. He spotted Elena immediately and approached with a warm smile that transformed his usually serious face. Mrs. Santos, he greeted her in Arabic. Thank you for making time in your new busy schedule. The pleasure is mine, she replied in kind, rising slightly as he took the seat across from her. A waiter appeared almost instantly, and Fahad ordered for them both, Arabic coffee and a selection of small pastries. When the waiter departed, he switched to English. Sultan Malik sends his regards. He would have joined us, but he's in Washington today for meetings at the embassy. Elena nodded, conscious of the diplomatic dance beginning. I appreciate his interest in meeting with me. I understand he wishes to discuss the foundation program. Yes, but first, Fahad's eyes held a perceptive gleam. I must say your transformation at Harrison has been remarkably swift, from maintenance staff to executive in a matter of days. Quite the American success story. Eleanor felt her cheeks warm, unsure if his observation contained criticism. It's been unexpected, yet not undeserved. Fahad accepted the coffee the waiter placed before them. Sultan Malik was quite impressed with your linguistic skills, of course, but more so with your cultural intelligence. That cannot be taught so easily. Thank you, Elena said, wrapping her hands around the small ornate cup. Though I suspect Harrison's sudden interest in my abilities has more to do with securing Sultan Malik's investment than recognizing my potential. Fahad's eyes crinkled with amusement. Refreshingly honest. Yes, that's likely true, but motivations aside, you now have a platform. The question is what you'll do with it. Their conversation shifted to the foundation program. As Fahad outlined the details, Eleanor found herself increasingly drawn to the opportunity. International symposiums, research grants, mentorship from global business and cultural leaders, a network that spanned continents. It represented everything she had once dreamed of before life intervened. The stipend is generous, Fahad explained, sliding a document across the table. And the schedule is designed to accommodate professional commitments. Sultan Malik is particularly interested in your perspective on linguistic barriers in international business negotiations. Elena reviewed the paperwork, noting the program's emphasis on developing cultural bridges between Western and Middle Eastern business practices. This is extraordinary, but I have to ask, why me? There must be dozens of more qualified candidates with completed degrees and established careers. Fahad considered her question, his expression thoughtful. Sultan Malik values authenticity and resilience. You possess both. Your academic background is impressive, yes, but your life experience, navigating between worlds, adapting to circumstances beyond your control, maintaining your dignity despite challenges, these qualities cannot be taught in universities. His assessment struck unexpectedly close to Elena's heart. For years she had viewed her interrupted education and maintenance job as failures, compromises that distanced her from her true potential. The idea that these very challenges might be valued as assets was both validating and disorienting. I would need Harrison's approval, she said finally. My position there is new and complicated. We understand. Fahad's tone suggested he understood more than she was saying. Politics exist in every organization, but consider this. Sultan Malik's investment in Harrison is significant, yes, but his investment in individuals through the foundation is personal. One offers financial returns, the other builds legacy. As they finished their coffee, Fahad shifted to more personal topics, asking about Elena's family. She found herself sharing more than she had intended: Marcus's accident, her withdrawal from graduate school, their financial struggles. Fahad listened with genuine interest, offering neither pity nor platitudes. Your brother is fortunate to have such a sister, he said simply when she finished. Family loyalty is a value we share across cultures. They parted with warm handshakes, Fahad encouraging Elena to consider the foundation offer carefully. Take your time, he said. The opportunity will remain open. As Elena walked back toward Harrison Tower, her mind swirled with possibilities. The foundation program offered intellectual fulfillment and global connections that Harrison could never provide. Yet her position at Harrison offered financial security and benefits that Marcus desperately needed. The two paths seemed impossibly divergent. She was so absorbed in her thoughts that she almost missed Chloe waiting in the lobby, her expression impatient. How was coffee? Chloe asked without preamble as Elena approached. Informative, Elena replied carefully. The foundation program is impressive. I'm sure it is. Chloe gestured toward the elevators. Gregory wants an update. The video conference with Malik's team has been rescheduled for tomorrow, and we need to finalize our approach. In Gregory's office, Elena found herself under scrutiny from both the CEO and James Peterson. The atmosphere was tense, expectant. Tell us about the foundation offer, Gregory said once pleasantries were dispensed with. What exactly is Malik proposing? Elena outlined the program, emphasizing its educational components and professional development opportunities. She kept her tone neutral, factual, though her enthusiasm occasionally slipped through. "Sounds like an elegant recruitment strategy," Peterson observed. "Get promising talent into his sphere of influence. Build loyalty outside their primary employment. It's a prestigious program," Elena countered. "Past participants have gone on to leadership positions worldwide." "Yes, I looked into that," Gregory said, "including several who now work directly for Malik's companies. Quite the talent pipeline he's built." Elena felt a flicker of defensiveness. The program doesn't require exclusive commitment to his organizations. Many graduates return to their original companies with valuable new perspectives and connections. "And you believe you could balance this program with your responsibilities here?" Chloe asked, her skepticism evident. "The schedule is designed for working professionals," Elena explained. "Quarterly seminars, some weekend workshops, occasional travel that could be coordinated with Harrison's needs." Gregory exchanged glances with Peterson and Chloe, some unspoken communication passing between them. "We'll need to review the formal proposal before making any decisions. In the meantime, let's focus on tomorrow's conference call. Chloe has some concerns about Malik's most recent communication." The meeting shifted to business matters, but Elena sensed the underlying tension remained. Her loyalty was being questioned, her judgment evaluated. The invisible lines between opportunity and obligation, between personal growth and professional commitment, were becoming increasingly blurred. Later that afternoon, Elena kept her promise to meet Anna for lunch. They sat in the employee cafeteria, a space Elena had rarely used during her maintenance shifts, which had never aligned with standard lunch hours. "So this is how the daytime people live," Anna joked, gesturing at the bustling cafeteria. "Actual hot food instead of vending machine sandwiches at 2 a.m. Elena smiled, realizing how much she had missed Anna's straightforward warmth. "The hours are definitely better. And the pay, I imagine?" Anna studied her with frank curiosity. "You look different. Not just the clothes, but I don't know. Like you're carrying something heavy. Is it that obvious?" Elena sighed, picking at her salad. "Only to someone who knows you." Anna leaned forward. "Talk to me. What's going on up there in the executive stratosphere?" Elena hesitated, then found herself sharing the complexities of her new position. Chloe's thinly veiled hostility, Gregory's conditional support, the foundation opportunity. That seemed simultaneously within reach and impossibly distant. "They want me to be grateful," she concluded. "To remember my place. Former janitor, now tolerated at the table because I'm useful." "But you are useful," Anna said firmly. "More than they ever realized. Don't let them make you feel small for doing work they couldn't do themselves." Elena felt a rush of affection for her friend. I missed your perspective, Anna." "Well, we're still here." Anna gestured to the other maintenance staff scattered throughout the cafeteria. "Just because you've moved upstairs doesn't mean you don't belong with us, too." As they parted, Anna hugged her tightly. "Remember who you are, Elena, not who they want you to be." The words stayed with Elena as she returned to her office, where an email from Sultan Malik himself awaited her. A personal invitation to speak at an upcoming international business forum in Dubai, all expenses covered by the foundation. The opportunity was both thrilling and intimidating, a chance to re-enter the academic and professional world she had reluctantly abandoned years ago. But as she contemplated her response, Eleanor knew that accepting would mean more than just a speaking engagement. It would be a declaration of intent, a step toward a future that might not align with Harrison's plans for her. The choice before her was not just about a conference or even the foundation program. It was about reclaiming her own narrative after years of having it dictated by circumstance. The video conference with Sultan Malik's team began precisely at 9 the next morning. The Harrison boardroom had been transformed into a technological showcase. Multiple screens displaying the Saudi delegation on one wall, presentation materials on another, real-time data flowing across tablets positioned before each executive. Elena sat between Gregory and Chloe, acutely aware of her pivotal role in the proceedings. "We appreciate your flexibility in rescheduling," Gregory began, once connections were established, "and we're particularly pleased to have Ms. Santos joining us today to ensure clear communication." On the main screen, Sultan Malik nodded appreciatively. He was in his Riyadh office, the skyline of the Saudi capital visible through windows behind him. Miss Santos's presence is most welcome. Her cultural insights have already proven valuable to our discussions. Eleanor translated Gregory's opening remarks into Arabic, carefully preserving his corporate optimism while adjusting phrases that might seem overly transactional to Middle Eastern ears. As the meeting progressed, she found herself doing more than simply converting words between languages. She was actively bridging perspectives, contextualizing Harrison's proposals within Saudi cultural frameworks, gently redirecting when either side veered toward miscommunication. The discussion centered on Harrison's proposed office in Riyadh, its location, staffing, operational philosophy. When Peterson presented financial projections that emphasized rapid returns, Elena subtly shifted the translation to emphasize sustainable growth and community integration, knowing these values would resonate more strongly with Malik's team. During a brief technical interruption, Chloe leaned toward Elena. "You're editorializing," she whispered, her smile never faltering for the camera. "Stick to direct translation." "I'm contextualizing," Elena replied quietly. Direct translation would miss cultural nuances critical to their decision-making. Before Chloe could respond, the connection resumed. "Sultan," Malik addressed Elena directly. "Ms. Santos, I'm curious about your perspective on our community engagement proposals. As someone who understands both cultures, do you believe Harrison's approach will resonate with local sensibilities?" The question positioned Elena not merely as translator, but as cultural advisor, a role that clearly exceeded Chloe's narrow definition of her responsibilities. Elena felt the tension radiating from the marketing VP beside her. "With respect," Chloe interjected, before Elena could respond, "those assessments fall under marketing's purview. We've conducted extensive research on regional preferences." Sultan Malik's expression remained pleasant, but a subtle shift in his posture suggested displeasure at the interruption. "Of course, but I was asking for Ms. Santos's unique perspective. Given her background in cultural linguistics, the moment hung delicately balanced. Elena could feel Gregory watching her, evaluating her response. She chose her words carefully. "Harrison's community approach shows promising awareness of local values," she said diplomatically. "I believe it could be strengthened by incorporating more multi-generational family engagement and educational partnerships, which are particularly valued in Saudi culture." Her response seemed to satisfy both sides, acknowledging Harrison's work while offering constructive refinement. Sultan Malik nodded appreciatively, while Gregory made a note on his tablet. As the meeting concluded, Sultan Malik addressed Elena once more. "I hope you've had time to consider our foundation invitation, Ms. Santos. Your insights today only confirm my belief that you would be an exceptional addition to the program." All eyes in the Harrison boardroom turned to Elena. The invitation, now publicly acknowledged, could no longer be quietly shelved. "Thank you, Sultan Malik," she replied. "I'm reviewing the details with great interest and discussing the opportunity with Harrison." Leadership. Gregory quickly steered the conversation to closing pleasantries, his entrepreneur's smile firmly in place despite the obvious tension. When the connection ended, the room remained silent for several uncomfortable seconds. "Well," Gregory finally said, his tone carefully measured, "that was productive if occasionally unexpected." His gaze fixed on Elena. "Let's debrief in my office in 15 minutes. Chloe, James, Elena, I want your assessments." As the executives filed out, Elena gathered her notes, aware that the meeting had shifted something fundamental in her position. She had been publicly valued by Sultan Malik, not just as a translator, but as a strategic advisor, a role Harrison had not authorized but could no longer easily deny. In Gregory's office, the atmosphere was charged with unspoken tensions. Peterson spoke first, his financial focus unchanged. "Malik seems genuinely committed to the investment, but his timeline is frustratingly gradual. We need to accelerate the capital deployment schedule." "His approach is cultural," Elena explained. In his view, rushing financial commitments before establishing relationship foundations would be considered unwise and potentially disrespectful. "Which brings us to the matter at hand," Gregory said, leaning forward in his chair. "This foundation invitation. Elena, you're putting us in a difficult position. Your employment here is still probationary, yet you're entertaining outside commitments that could divide your loyalties. The foundation program would complement my work here," Elena countered. "The knowledge and connections would directly benefit Harrison's Middle Eastern initiatives." Perhaps, Chloe interjected, but the optics are problematic. You would effectively have one foot in each camp, ours and Malik's. How do we ensure confidential Harrison strategies remain protected? The implication stung. I would never compromise Harrison's interests, Elena said firmly. Intentions aside, Gregory replied, appearances matter in business. We need your full focus on our priorities. Eleanor felt a familiar pressure building in her chest, the same sensation she had experienced years ago when forced to choose between her academic dreams and family obligations. Once again, she was being asked to narrow her horizons, to accept limitations imposed by others. What exactly are you saying? She asked quietly. Gregory and Chloe exchanged glances before he continued. We're prepared to offer you an exclusive development track at Harrison. Accelerated advancement, mentorship from our senior leadership, eventual director-level positioning. In exchange, we ask that you decline the foundation offer. Your skills should benefit Harrison exclusively, at least during this critical expansion phase. The proposal was both generous and constrictive, a golden cage crafted specifically for her. Elena's mind raced, calculating implications, weighing options. I'll need time to consider, she said finally. Of course, Gregory nodded. Take the weekend. We'll expect your decision Monday morning. As Elena left the meeting, her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Lunch? Today? I'm downtown for PT, want to see your fancy new office. The message brought a smile to her face despite the pressure weighing on her. 20 minutes later, she met Marcus in the Harrison lobby, his cane less evident than it had been weeks earlier, his movements showing improved fluidity. Look at you, she said, hugging him carefully. The new treatments are working. Slowly but surely, he agreed with cautious optimism. And look at you, all corporate and important. She gave him a brief tour of the public areas, conscious of curious glances from employees who had known her only as maintenance staff. In the cafeteria, they found a quiet corner table. So, Marcus said once they were settled with their food, you going to tell me what's wrong? Or do I have to guess? Elena sighed. Her brother had always been able to read her moods with uncanny accuracy. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who's known you your whole life. He studied her face. This is about that foundation thing, isn't it? She nodded, then explained Gregory's ultimatum, advancement at Harrison or acceptance into the foundation program, but not both. As she spoke, Marcus listened intently, his expression thoughtful. What do you want? He asked when she finished. Not what's practical or safe or expected. What do you actually want? The directness of his question caught her off guard. For years, Eleanor had made decisions based on necessity rather than desire, on obligation rather than aspiration. What did she want? I want both, she admitted. The security of Harrison and the opportunities of the foundation. I want to use my mind again, to contribute meaningfully, to build something lasting. Then fight for both, Marcus said simply. You've spent years compromising, Lena. Years putting everyone else first. Maybe it's time to put yourself first for once. It's not that simple, she began, but Marcus cut her off. It never is, but you know what's not simple either. Watching my brilliant sister scrub floors for years because I got hurt. Knowing you gave up everything, your degree, your dreams, your future, for me. Marcus, Eleanor reached for his hand. That was my choice. And now you have another choice, he said firmly. But this time, choose based on what you want, not what you think I need. I'm getting better, Elena. The new treatments, the physical therapy, it's working. I don't need you to sacrifice anymore. His words hung between them, liberating and terrifying in their implications. For so long, Eleanor's identity had been defined by sacrifice, the dedicated sister, the silent supporter, the invisible caretaker. The possibility of redefining herself, of reclaiming ambitions long set aside, was both exhilarating and disorienting. Think about it, Marcus squeezed her hand. But know this, whatever you decide, I'm proud of you. Always have been, even when no one else could see how amazing you are. As they parted in the lobby, Marcus hugged her tightly. Remember who you really are, Lena. Not the janitor, not the new executive. The woman who never stopped learning, never stopped growing, even when life tried to stop her. Back in her office, Eleanor found a key package waiting on her desk. An elegant leather portfolio embossed with the Malik Foundation logo. Inside was a formal invitation to the Dubai Forum, along with a personal note from Sultan Malik. Your voice deserves to be heard again. The choice, of course, is yours. Eleanor traced her fingers over the embossed lettering, feeling possibilities unfold before her like pages of a book long closed but never forgotten. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to want more than survival, to want fulfillment, recognition, impact. The question was whether she could forge a path that honored both her obligations and her aspirations, or if she would once again be forced to choose between worlds that seemed irreconcilably separate. Monday morning arrived with the crystalline clarity of autumn in New York. Elena stood at her apartment window, watching sunrise paint the Bronx in hues of amber and gold. She had barely slept, her mind racing between options, weighing consequences, imagining futures that diverged with each choice. Marcus emerged from his bedroom, moving with newfound ease that still surprised her. "Big day," he said, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. "Life-changing." "Potentially," Elena agreed, accepting the coffee with a grateful smile. "You decided yet?" Elena nodded slowly. "I think so, but I'm not sure if it's brave or foolish." "Sometimes they're the same thing," Marcus replied with unexpected wisdom. "The best decisions usually are." An hour later, Eleanor walked through the grand lobby of Harrison Tower with purposeful strides. Her simple but elegant pantsuit, navy blue with subtle gold accessories, had been chosen with deliberate care. Today, she would not be invisible. Gregory's assistant ushered her directly into his office, where Chloe was already seated. The marketing VP's smile was professionally neutral, but her eyes betrayed calculation. "Elena," Gregory gestured to the empty chair, "we've been looking forward to hearing your decision." Elena took her seat, placing her portfolio on the desk before her. Inside was both her letter to Harrison and the signed foundation acceptance. The weight of the moment pressed upon her. This conversation would alter the trajectory of her life. "First, I want to express my gratitude," she began carefully. "Harrison has offered me an opportunity that changed my circumstances significantly. I recognize and appreciate that." Gregory's expression warmed slightly at the acknowledgement. "We recognize talent when we see it. Eventually," he added, with a self-deprecating smile that didn't quite ring true. "That said," Elena continued, "I've given serious consideration to both paths before me. Exclusive advancement at Harrison, or combining my role here with the Malik Foundation program." "And your conclusion?" Chloe prompted, impatience edging her tone. Elena met her gaze directly. "I choose both." The executives exchanged glances. Gregory leaned forward, his entrepreneur's smile fixed, but his eyes calculating. "I'm not sure you understand. We're offering an either-or proposition, not a buffet of options." "I understand perfectly," Elena replied evenly, "and I'm proposing an alternative that serves everyone's interests. I accept the foundation program, bringing its resources, connections, and prestige to benefit Harrison's Middle Eastern initiatives. Meanwhile, I continue developing the cultural liaison role here, with appropriate boundaries to protect corporate interests." "That's not what we—" Chloe began, but Elena continued with gentle firmness. "I've taken the liberty of drafting a proposal." She removed a document from her portfolio and placed it before them. It outlines specific protocols for information sharing, scheduling accommodations, and performance metrics that would satisfy both commitments. Gregory scanned the document, his expression unreadable. Creative, certainly, but it doesn't address our fundamental concern about divided loyalties. "With respect," Elena said, "Harrison hired me precisely because of my divided perspective, my ability to bridge cultures, to see beyond singular viewpoints. That same ability allows me to serve Harrison while growing through the foundation." "The foundation serves Malik's interests," Chloe countered, "interests that may not align with Harrison's. True partnership requires more than shared profits. It demands shared understanding." Elena quoted the proverb that had changed everything a week earlier. "Sultan Malik values cultural integration because it creates sustainable business relationships. By participating in his program, I strengthen that integration, benefiting both organizations." Gregory studied her with newfound intensity. "You've clearly given this considerable thought." "I have," Elena acknowledged, "because both opportunities matter to me. Harrison offers security and practical application of my skills. The foundation offers growth and reconnection to academic pursuits I was forced to abandon. I believe I can honor both without compromising either. A silence fell over the office as Gregory and Chloe considered her position. Elena waited, outwardly calm though. Her heart raced. She had made her stand, neither complete acquiescence nor outright refusal, but a third path carved through determination and clear-eyed assessment of her worth. Finally, Gregory spoke. You've put us in an interesting position, Elena. Few employees would have the audacity to counter-propose in this manner. I prefer to call it initiative, Elena replied with a slight smile. Harrison values innovation, after all. To her surprise, Gregory laughed, a genuine sound of appreciation rather than his practiced corporate chuckle. Indeed we do. He glanced at Chloe, whose expression remained skeptical. Let us review your proposal in detail. We'll need to discuss some modifications, particularly regarding scheduling and information protocols. It wasn't acceptance, but it wasn't rejection either. It was negotiation. Recognition that she brought enough value to warrant consideration rather than dismissal. Eleanor felt a weight lift from her shoulders, though she maintained her professional composure. Of course, I welcome your input. The meeting extended into a substantive discussion, with Elena defending key points of her proposal while demonstrating flexibility on others. By its conclusion, a tentative framework had emerged. She would participate in the foundation program with specific limitations designed to protect Harrison's interests, while her role at Harrison would evolve to incorporate the knowledge and connections gained through the program. As she left Gregory's office, Chloe followed her into the hallway. Impressive performance, the marketing VP said, her tone balanced between compliment and warning. But the real test comes in execution. Managing both commitments won't be easy. Few worthwhile things are, Elena replied. Just remember who signs your paychecks, Chloe added with a thin smile. Loyalty matters in this business. So does integrity, Elena countered gently. I'll honor my commitments to Harrison and to my own professional development. The two aren't mutually exclusive. Later that afternoon, Elena called Fahad to formally accept the foundation offer. His pleased response confirmed she would begin with the Dubai Forum in 3 weeks, her first professional speaking engagement in 5 years. That evening, she and Marcus celebrated with takeout from their favorite Dominican restaurant, the small apartment filled with the aroma of pernil and mofongo. To my sister, Marcus raised his glass of Malta, executive by day, global scholar by night, badass all the time. Elena laughed, clinking her glass against his. I haven't actually done anything yet. You stood your ground, Marcus corrected her. That's doing something important. As they ate, Elena shared her plans for the coming weeks. Preparation for Dubai, coordination with Malik's team, establishing new workflows at Harrison. The path ahead was challenging but exhilarating, filled with possibilities long thought lost to her. I've been thinking, Marcus said during a lull in conversation. I'm going to apply to community college for the spring semester. Just 2 classes to start, but it's something. Elena stared at him, joy blossoming in her chest. Marcus, that's wonderful. Figure it's time, he shrugged, though his smile betrayed his own excitement. Can't let my big sister be the only one moving forward. That night, as Elena prepared her presentation for Dubai, she felt a sense of rightness that had eluded her for years. The janitor who had stood invisibly in boardroom corners was becoming the expert who commanded attention at international forums. The sister who had sacrificed her dreams was reclaiming them while watching her brother rediscover his own. The path forward would not be easy. Navigating between Harrison's corporate expectations and the Foundation's academic demands would require constant vigilance and careful balance. Chloe's wariness would likely evolve into more active opposition if given reason. Gregory's support remained conditional on demonstrable results, but for the first time in years, Elena was charting her own course rather than merely reacting to circumstances beyond her control. She was visible now, not just to others, but to herself, rediscovering ambitions and capacities long submerged beneath necessity and sacrifice. As she rehearsed her presentation, Elena felt herself reconnecting with the scholar she had once been, while incorporating the wisdom gained through years of unseen labor and quiet resilience. She was becoming neither wholly the janitor nor wholly the executive, but something more complex and authentic, a bridge between worlds, just as she had always been meant to be. 3 months later, Eleanor stood at the podium of the International Business and Cultural Exchange Summit in Singapore, addressing a room filled with corporate leaders academics and policymakers from around the world. Her presentation on linguistic barriers in cross-cultural negotiations had drawn the largest audience of the conference, with attendees lining the walls after all seats were filled. The most dangerous miscommunications, she concluded, her voice steady and confident, aren't mistranslated words but untranslated contexts. True understanding requires not just linguistic accuracy, but cultural empathy, the ability to see beyond our own frameworks to recognize wisdom in unexpected forms. The applause was immediate and enthusiastic. As Elena gathered her notes, attendees surged forward with questions and business cards. Among them was a distinguished professor from Columbia University, her former academic advisor, who had once encouraged her graduate studies. "Elena Santos," Professor Hammond said, genuine pleasure warming her voice. "When I saw your name on the program, I could hardly believe it. You've returned to the field in spectacular fashion." "Not returned," Elena corrected gently. "Reimagined. My path took some unexpected turns." "The best scholars often do," Hammond replied. "We should discuss potential collaboration. Your applied approach to cultural linguistics is precisely what our department has been developing." The interaction was brief but significant. Acknowledgement from her former academic world that her current path, unconventional though it was, held genuine value. As the crowd thinned, Elena checked her phone to find several messages. One from Gregory confirming their meeting the following week. Another from Anna sending congratulations on the presentation's live stream. But it was Marcus's message that brought the widest smile to her face. "Aced my midterms. Prof says my tech project might qualify for the Innovation Showcase. Call when you can." Sultan Malik approached as she was responding, his expression reflecting approval. "Masterful presentation, Ms. Santos. You've become quite the ambassador between worlds." "Thank you," Elena replied, switching effortlessly to Arabic. "The foundation program has been transformative. As you have been for Harrison, I understand." Gregory Sloan mentioned their Saudi office launch exceeded projections, largely due to your cultural integration strategies. Elena nodded, taking quiet pride in the achievement. The past 3 months had been intensely demanding as she balanced her expanding role at Harrison with her foundation commitments. There had been challenges, scheduling conflicts that required diplomatic navigation, occasional tensions when Harrison priorities clashed with foundation activities, Chloe's continued wariness that sometimes bordered on obstruction. But there had also been triumphs. The Riyadh office opening had indeed been successful, with Elena's cultural guidance helping Harrison avoid pitfalls that typically plagued Western companies entering the market. Her dual position had attracted clients specifically interested in culturally informed business strategies. And within Harrison, other employees from diverse backgrounds had begun approaching her, seeing in her rise the possibility of their own talents being recognized. "Walk with me," Sultan Malik suggested, gesturing toward the conference center's garden terrace. As they strolled among carefully tended tropical plants, he continued, "The Foundation Board is extremely impressed with your contributions. We're considering expanding the cultural leadership program, potentially with you in a more formal advisory capacity." The offer was flattering, but would further complicate her already delicate balance between commitments. "I'm honored by the consideration," Elena replied carefully, "though my current arrangements with Harrison would require renegotiation." Malik nodded thoughtfully. Balance is never static but constantly recalibrated, much like cultural understanding itself. Their conversation was interrupted by Elena's phone, a video call from Harrison. She excused herself to answer, finding Gregory and the executive team gathered in the boardroom. "Elena," Gregory greeted her, the familiar entrepreneur's smile now holding more genuine warmth than it had months earlier. "Sorry to interrupt your conference, but we have news that couldn't wait. The Malik Harrison Cultural Leadership Initiative has been approved for full funding." Elena's breath caught. The initiative, her proposal for a joint program between Harrison and the Malik Foundation to mentor promising employees from diverse backgrounds, had been her most ambitious project yet, combining corporate talent development with cultural exchange principles. "That's wonderful news," she replied, genuine excitement in her voice. "When can implementation begin?" "Next quarter," Gregory confirmed. "With you heading the program, of course, we'll need to discuss structure and staffing when you return." When the call ended, Elena turned to find Sultan Malik watching her with quiet amusement. I see Harrison has embraced your vision more fully than expected, he observed. It's been a gradual process, Elena acknowledged. Cultural change always is. Indeed, Malik gestured toward a bench overlooking the Singapore skyline. When you first spoke in that boardroom 3 months ago, did you imagine this outcome? Elena considered the question seriously. No, she admitted. I was simply responding to a moment where I could no longer remain silent. Everything since has been unexpected evolution. The best journeys often are, Malik replied. I've watched many promising careers develop through the foundation, but few with your particular path. From maintenance staff to program director. Eleanor smiled. It's certainly unconventional. From invisible to essential, Malik corrected. Though you were always essential, just not recognized as such. The observation struck Elena deeply. She had indeed traversed from invisibility to recognition, from being overlooked to being sought after. Yet the journey had changed more than her external circumstances. It had transformed her understanding of her own worth and capabilities. The following week, Elena returned to New York, stepping into Harrison Tower through the main entrance rather than the service door she had used for so many months. The security guards greeted her by name, executives nodded with respect, and her expanding team welcomed her with updates and questions. But before immersing herself in corporate responsibilities, Elena took the elevator to the basement level, where the maintenance staff prepared for their evening shift. Anna looked up in surprise as Elena entered the locker room, still dressed in her business attire. The executive graces us with her presence, Anna teased, though her smile was warm. I've missed you, Elena said simply, hugging her friend. How is everyone? For the next half hour, Elena reconnected with her former colleagues, listening to their updates, sharing appropriate news of her own travels, demonstrating through presence rather than words that she had not forgotten where she came from. As she prepared to leave, Anna walked her to the elevator. You know, you're different now, the older woman observed. Not just the fancy clothes or the important title. There's something in your eyes, like you finally believe what I always told you. What's that? Elena asked. That you were too smart to be scrubbing floors, Anna replied. That you were meant for more. Elena considered this. Maybe. But I don't regret those years, Anna. They taught me things no degree ever could. Like what? Like seeing people others overlook. Like understanding that dignity isn't determined by job title. Like recognizing that sometimes the most important voices are the ones speaking from unexpected places. That evening, Eleanor met Marcus at their apartment. Now, brightened by new furniture and artwork, they had gradually added as their financial situation improved. Her brother greeted her with an enthusiastic hug, his movements fluid and confident, the cane nowhere in sight. Welcome home, world traveler, he said, taking her suitcase. How was Singapore? Educational, Elena replied, settling onto their new couch with a contented sigh. But I want to hear about your midterms and this innovation showcase. As Marcus described his project, a mentorship app connecting community college students with industry professionals, Eleanor felt a profound sense of completion. The circle that had begun with her sacrifice for her brother was closing with his own resurgence, both of them finding paths forward that honored their individual gifts. Later, as they shared dinner, Marcus raised his glass. To the Santos siblings, no longer invisible, never again silent. Eleanor clinked her glass against his, the simple toast encapsulating their parallel journeys. From the maintenance staff who cleaned when others worked to the executive who bridged cultural divides, from the injured young man dependent on his sister, to the student creating opportunities for others, they had each transformed limitation into possibility, invisibility into presence. The next morning, Elena entered the Harrison boardroom for her first meeting as director of the Cultural Leadership Initiative. The same space where she had once polished glass and emptied trash bins now witnessed her leading executives through program proposals, budget allocations, and implementation. Timelines. As the meeting concluded, Gregory pulled her aside. I've been meaning to ask, how does it feel coming full circle like this? From cleaning this room to running meetings in it? Eleanor considered his question, sensing genuine curiosity beneath the corporate pleasantry. It feels like integration, she said finally. All parts of my experience contributing to who I am now. Well, Harrison is fortunate that you spoke up that day, Gregory acknowledged. Though perhaps next time we should pay more attention to who's cleaning our offices. Perhaps, Elena agreed with a small smile. Or simply remember that wisdom can come from unexpected sources if we're willing to listen. As she gathered her materials, Elena glanced around the gleaming boardroom, seeing it simultaneously. Through multiple perspectives, the maintenance worker noticing smudges on the glass, the cultural linguist analyzing the power dynamics of the seating arrangement, the program director envisioning future cohorts of diverse leaders training in this space, no longer divided between worlds but bridging them, no longer invisible but intentionally present. Elena Santos had become not what others expected, but what she herself had always been capable of becoming, a woman whose voice, once silenced by circumstance, now resonated across continents, changing rooms and lives simply by refusing to remain unheard.